Hi, I'm Bruce. This is Speed and Color. This week, we're back at CHD with the boys. We're with Kobi and Tom. We're going to take a look at a very cool street bob called the Sarge. Kind of a military themed deal. These guys did a great job on this, or CHD Customs did. So we go through the bike in a little bit of detail, show you what they did, and talk about how they got there, how they came up with the design. So great episode, some good information there if you're looking at putting a bike like that together. The other thing I wanted to show you, I just got back from Born Free, California. While I was down there, I was talking to these guys, Choppers Magazine. I'm sure you've seen this before. It's been around since I think there it is right there. Established in 1967. Great magazine. Let me see if I can show you some of the pages. Really, really nice quality. Really good paper. Just lots and lots of photos. Good articles, good text, easy reading, really, really good. Kerry Brobeck, nice man, really passionate about choppers and custom motorcycles and stuff. I got to tell you, I think you all know, if you've watched any of the other episodes or some of the other episodes of Speed and Color, we are losing magazines. We lost our last custom motorcycle magazine in Canada. Really unfortunate. It's a shame. The federal government has support for Canadian publications. There was certainly support for that one, and for whatever reason, it went away. We're losing more and more magazines, and I don't know about all of you, but you're watching me in a digital format, so I certainly can't criticize digital stuff. Digital's great, has a purpose. We like it. There's all kinds of good stuff. YouTube, man, could we do what we do with motorcycles without YouTube to learn from other people's experience? Just so much good stuff, good resources and everything. That said, boy, do I like picking up a magazine and flipping through it and looking at the pictures and taking it to the reading room with me for my daily constitutional, or on the plane, Wi-Fi, logging in, connecting, all that crap. No. You know what? Just let me pull out a magazine and read a magazine while I'm on the plane. Much better deal. All I can say is I picked up a couple copies. I am definitely going to subscribe. I apologize that I haven't been subscribing. We're going to see these guys at the Bad Livin' Roadshow as well. They're supporting a Canadian event, which I think is super cool. So I am going to subscribe. I would encourage you, and I'm not telling you how to spend your money, but I would encourage you to subscribe to this kind of magazine as well, this one, or there's other good ones out there too. They're not all gone. But if we don't support these, they will go away. And I like the format. I like having a magazine. So I'm going to do my little part to try and keep them around. Anyway, pick up a copy. Great magazine, good reading. You'll enjoy it. Going forward here, I hope you enjoy this episode. Give it a watch, give it a listen if you're listening to the podcast. We'll see what CHD has to say, and some good episodes coming up. I got a couple of good ones in the can. We're going to try a couple different things here. So be watching again in a couple of weeks, and thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again soon. So here we are back at Calgary Harley-Davidson, my favorite dealer, best damn dealer around. And that reminds me of something that I was going to talk to Kobi about, is Calgary Harley-Davidson, #1 Harley-Davidson dealer in Canada, correct?
Correct.
For
3 years,
in a row?
Yeah.
Wow. Good for us.
Yeah. So we've accomplished that now 3 years in a row. I'm very, very proud of that. So.
And you've been here for how many years?
4 years.
4 years, and 3 of those have been #1. So I'm thinking your position is fairly secure.
Well, I certainly hope so. There's no two ways about it. But you know what? When I've got somebody like Tom on the team that's got infinite wisdom and knowledge and works very closely with me, then you know a lot of it has to do with the full team that we have here at the dealership.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me that Tom had his eye on your job, so you were a little concerned.
I think Tom's had my job a couple of times now.
Yeah. Been there, done that. I'm good.
Yeah.
Right on.
See, he's got all the gray hair that I'm earning.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Great. So we don't have Akita here with us this time, but she did dress us again.
Yeah.
We are all styling in our 2024 Motor Clothes Collection shirts. Yeah.
Yeah. I always love those, like the breakfast news television clothing provided by Calgary Harley-Davidson Motor Clothes.
That's right.
Yeah. Design inspirations by Akita Warinka.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, we got to know you guys the last time, so we don't really need to go through all of that again.
Well, unless Tom wants to tell a story.
No.
No stories,
I'm
Tom?
good.
Okay. So I guess we should jump into this one. Man, there's a lot to talk about on this thing for sure. Whichever one of you, Kobi, if you want to start.
So this one
what did this start out as?
This one started life out as a 2023 Street Bob. Again, like I was saying earlier, we do use the winter months in order for doing a lot of the CHD customs and designs and projects that we're working on. So we had this one ready specifically for the Calgary Motorcycle Show that just passed not too long ago. And one of the things that we wanted to bring back to the table was the fact that, with custom paint and a little bit here, a little bit of magic here, and a little bit of magic there, you can create an infinite amount of possibilities, especially with a Street Bob. Street Bob for us is one of our starting price point Softails in the lineup. Comes factory equipped with a 114 cubic inch motor. So it's one of the largest motors that Harley-Davidson makes on one of the lightest frames and lightest bodies that Harley makes. So the power
I think there's absolutely incredible value in a Street Bob. You're not going to find another bike in that price point from Harley-Davidson with that motor and this level of finish already on it.
Yeah. Right.
Now, one of the bikes that we've had here, and we especially see it in the pre-owned, is the Slim S back to 2016.
Yep.
2016 Slim S, which is a military style themed paint set that comes on that bike with a white star on it. And every single time we have one of those bikes in the pre-owned showroom, they last about 10 seconds flat. So when we were looking for kind of a design inspiration, what we wanted to do with this, the first thing we said is let's look at that military style theme paint and see what we can play with. So we subcontracted out to a painter here in town that has done an incredible job, especially with this denim paint. Probably the closest denim paint that I've actually seen to a factory denim paint as far as finish is concerned.
Right.
So it is very, very well done.
Yeah, it's very nice. Yeah.
Now,
Really
I'm a
good.
sucker for a bobber. My first bike, we built a custom bobber out of it. So that's kind of where some of this design and inspiration came from as well. But we're also suckers for a nice Springer around here.
Yeah. This is
Springer
old
front end, you gotta love them.
Yeah, this is old school, baby.
Yeah, so we put the Springer front end on it, relocated the headlights, so it's very, very out there and predominant, gives it that old school look to it. Same with those bars. We actually like to roll forward the bars on these bikes quite often because it gives that old school lowrider bicycle kind of look to it altogether.
So
I was just going to say, when we were building this bike, we wanted a bike that looked like you built it in your garage. It's not something that comes out of a factory. It's not a cookie cutter bike. So this bike is very unique, and the lines on it are just old school. It's
right. So I love the front wheel, no fender, very old school.
Yep.
You know, that's all great. but I am seeing stuff up here that is not so old school. Obviously a brake, which a lot of guys wouldn't run a brake on a Springer. I totally understand why you do. It's a good idea. But the brake has a lot of modern components to it. The other thing I noticed is some wiring here that you wouldn't typically find on an old school bike. What is the wiring about? What have we got going on here?
It's an old school bike. It's an old school front end on the bike. So that is actually your Speedo drive.
Okay.
Now it's been modified for the new electronics on the bike, but that just picks up the movement of the front wheel.
Okay. And the brake stuff is
modern brake stuff adapted to this front end.
okay.
So it's got.
Is it factory? Not factory. Is it Harley brake stuff or is it aftermarket?
This is aftermarket.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think especially with the Springer front end, I don't think the Harley components would probably work.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement to this front end. There's those two rockers that actually pivot up and down. Yeah. And so we had to design a brake system or get a brake system that would work with all that movement.
Right. Now, whose Springer is this?
Did you get that on the build?
I didn't get it. It's an aftermarket company. I can't remember the name of it.
Okay.
I wish we were better versed for you on that question, Bruce.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because everybody has an opinion about Springers out there, and there's a bunch of them, and people have had good results with this. Other people say no. It's just one of the. I think it's more a personal choice thing. I have a couple DNA Springers at home in the garage. I honestly couldn't tell you if this is a DNA or not.
I don't.
Mid-USA is very similar to DNA.
Might be Mid-USA,
Yeah. So Mid-USA makes a nice Springer. I guess, Tom, with the rockers and everything, as long as you do your homework on the geometry and set it up, I think they're all functional.
Right. The person that buys this bike isn't buying it thinking that they're going to be laying into a corner, dragging their knee on it. This is a bike that you're buying on emotional level. Yes. It's a beautiful bike. This front end is functional. It works. It will absorb bumps. Yeah, there's other front ends that are going to do it better, obviously. But the guy that's buying this bike buys it because that's what he wants. He just loves that.
Right.
Yeah. And again, you're going to turn heads anywhere you go on this particular bike. I know every single time I see a Springer on the road, it definitely turns my head and look the other way.
Yeah, this is a bike that you park and everyone, you'll go in for a coffee, come out, and there'll be a crowd around it looking at it.
Yeah.
Every time.
Checking it out.
Headlight?
Stock headlight, just modified, bring it forward. So.
Oh, is that right? That's the stock unit. Nice. Good job.
Yeah. Now, the lighting on this bike, we also did the Harley-Davidson halos on the front.
Which are absolutely amazing, and I recommend these lights for every single Harley.
Yeah. I personally have these on my Fat Bob. I absolutely love them. They're actually brighter than my headlamp is, and the Fat Bob headlamp was arguably probably one of the brightest headlamps that Harley's made, just as their standard light. But they do shift between those daytime running light halos to an amber as well, and then back again.
I'm a true believer that you can never have too many lights on a bike.
Right. So describe to the people who are listening to the podcast, when you say halo, what does this light look like?
So there's basically two different lights that are inside this pod here. There's a perimeter light, which is the halo, and it comes on with your driving lights, and it's bright white. You'll see that for miles going forward. Then when you hit a turn signal, the inner lights up as amber, which you need in Canada for a turn signal.
Right. Yeah. And the white ring of light or halo goes up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. And again, it's being visible on the road is one of the most important parts of riding, really. Yeah. And those halos are so distinct and they're eye-catching. People know exactly where you are. I'm a huge advocate. We like to put them on pretty much almost all of the builds that we do here at the dealership, just because we all believe in them.
And the thing that's really cool about them is they are almost plug and play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they use your exact same like your halogen bulb would. It's the same connector on the backside. You just twist them into place and away you go. We do need to reprogram the BCM on the bike, just so that it understands it's using lower wattage than what the halogen bulb would use. Yeah. But again, for a long-term use, these things are going to last you a lifetime for one. They're 20 times brighter than what you have on there from factory. And again, you're increasing that visibility out on the road.
So the housing on these is
factory
kind
housing.
of a teardrop or
bullet
shape. You said this is the factory housing?
Yep. So all we do is take the old lens off, take the old halogen bulb out, put that one in, twist it into place, and you're down the road.
Okay. And in this case, they're black. These come in chrome as well on some models?
Yeah, the bullet would be, like if we look at a Breakout, for example, it already has a chrome bullet on there versus the Street Bob that comes with a black.
These are the same lights Harley's been using on their bikes for 20, 30 years.
Okay. Awesome.
So they're clean, they're simplistic, and they're very, very functional.
Yeah.
Talk about the bars a little bit.
So meat hook style bar that we do have on there. Again, just kind of get your arms up there, give you that cool kind of like chopper.
Yeah, a little bit taller than stock. I think they're a beautiful bar. They flow really nicely with the bike. They're very angular. They seem to be trending right now. A lot of builds will get a bar like this. I think it looks spectacular with that Springer front end.
This brand, do we know what this brand is?
Iron Hold, I believe.
I think they're Iron Hold. Yeah, we deal with about 5 different brands that all do this kind of bike, but I think these ones are Iron Hold.
Yeah.
Gauges or
lack thereof.
gauge.
Yeah. Very clean. Harley-Davidson has got a small digital display that's built into their top clamp for the handlebar. A lot of information in there, trip A, trip B. It's got RPMs in there.
So that is
odometer.
factory?
That's factory.
Okay.
Yeah. Even your fuel gauge is in that little display. You can see it in bright light. It works great. Amazing, actually. It's...
And it's just really, really nice and clean. Doesn't take away from the overall aesthetic of the bike.
Right.
It's not something that's in your line of vision.
Oh, it's tiny.
Yeah, it's tiny and it's highly functional.
Yeah. Mirrors.
Those are Harley-Davidson brand mirrors. I believe these are called the Edge Cut, and that's a part of a theme, so you can get the matching pegs and everything for it. But those mirrors are very nice mirrors. I like an oval mirror. They just give you a little bit broader range to see behind you.
Yeah, good size as well.
Yeah.
Doesn't really take away from the aesthetic of the bike, but again, very functional when you're out on the road. See all your surroundings, everything else around you. Yeah.
Good.
Grips or Get-A Grips.
Which are some of my favorite. I love the shape of them. I like the little bit of rubber in them, and I like that they're blacked out.
Yep.
Yeah. Also
Very subtle.
Yeah, and they've got the bulge to them
Yeah,
rather
they
than
fit
just being
your hand
straight.
really naturally. They're nice, comfortable grip.
Good.
Yeah.
Engine.
Stage 1 done on this guy here.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you know who did the exhaust on this one, Tom?
Yeah, that's no, because they changed the exhaust. It had a Bassani on there, but those are not Bassani.
Okay.
Stage 1 includes what?
So we're going to be doing an upgrade to the intake. We're going to be doing a more freer flowing exhaust and also the Screaming Eagle tuner.
Yeah, what you're doing with a stage 1 is you're just opening up the breathing of the bike. So you're physically not changing anything in the motor. The bike breathes better. It's you'll get a crisper throttle response. On a dyno chart, you might see a difference in the power. Plus, what most people do stage 1 for is the sound. It just sounds incredible, and that's what people desire when they hear a Harley. When they see a Harley, they want to hear that sound out of it.
Right.
And I think we were talking about firing this guy up, weren't we?
Yeah, we'll fire it up here at some point. Maybe when you turn it around, we'll
we can do
fire
that.
it up. You mentioned the intake. Do you know what it is that gets done to the intake? Is it a replacement intake, or is it modifying the factory one?
We take because the bikes come pretty restricted from the factory, so we just open up the breathing going into the bike.
Okay.
So you remove the stock filter, the stock air cleaner on there, and you open up the breathing on it. This one here in particular has got a K&N style filter in it, lightly oiled, and then it's got this old school teardrop S&S style filter or air cleaner. and it just opens up the breathing into the bike.
Yeah, and it's drastically changed the overall aesthetic of the bike as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it gives it that old school look to it.
Yeah, that military, with is this olive drab or what color is this kind of?
It's a fully custom color, but yes, military inspired.
Olive
Yeah,
drab.
Right,
exactly.
that's where it came from.
Okay. Nothing else done to the engine?
Nope, not on this particular one. A lot of what we like to do here at the dealership, especially when we do a build like this, is we try to keep the price point also at the point where this bike can still be financed and you don't need an exorbitant amount of money for a down payment. So, if we focus more on the aesthetics and build the overall look of the bike, plus some performance aspects to it, anybody that wants to come in, upgrade it to a stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, put a 131 cubic inch motor in this, and really play around with some other kind of components, hey, they've got the perfect, bike to do it. But again, we do have the widest audience that can come in here, finance the bike, and ride down the road that same day.
Sure.
Yeah.
And this is a small frame bike. It's got a 114-inch motor. It's got a lot of jam. It's a fun bike to ride.
You mentioned this frame is very light. The soft tail.
Yeah, it's a mid-sized bike, mid-sized frame, so it's not a touring bike. It's not as big and heavy as that.
Right.
The soft tails fall in between the touring and sportsters, and it's just a lighter bike, not as heavy duty as the touring bikes are. They've gone to a monoshock design on it. It tracks unbelievably well. One of my favorite bikes to ride if I'm doing like slow speed maneuvers is the Heritage, which is a sister bike to this one here.
Right.
Absolutely love it.
Same frame.
And again, the idea behind the soft tail, or I believe the idea behind it originally, was to get that old school, rigid kind of look with functional suspension.
Yeah, it's functional suspension. It's got that old rigid look to it, but it is actually a rear end suspension on this bike.
Yeah. Great.
I think we should fire it up before we turn it around.
Well, I had another question for you, though.
Sure.
Because
I'm just excited to do it.
I know you are. I was just thinking about this, though. It's a question I've had. Conventional oil, synthetic oil. Where is Harley-Davidson and where is Calgary Harley-Davidson at these days in terms of what should a customer run?
Well, we're always going to be a net promoter of synthetic oil, right? So we use Syn 3 in the majority of our bikes, and that's what we do recommend to swap to.
From the factory, they come with a traditional Harley-Davidson mineral oil, 2050 weight oil, which is a great oil, like fantastic oil. But I'm a true believer, like Kobi was saying, in synthetic oils. I run it in all my vehicles. I would, after the first service or at the first service, I would put it into this bike. And the only reason why I wouldn't do it from the get-go is because technically you've paid for that oil, so you might as well use it.
Right.
Yeah. Right. I think from any manufacturer's point of view, they're going to say as long as your engine is lubricated, that's the most important part, that you're making those regular changes. Now, synthetic oil, they smooth out the molecules in the oil, and there's definitely a difference between conventional oil and synthetic oil. So
it's got a higher viscosity, it's slipperier, it coats better, it's just going to put less wear into your motor.
Yeah, and it doesn't freeze up like conventional oil does.
Yeah, which is important in Canada.
Yeah.
And what about primaries, transmissions? Same thing?
Yeah, Harley-Davidson from the factory, the primary comes with a semi-synthetic, but you can upgrade it to the full synthetic. And that's the other reason why I like, especially the Harley-Davidson Syn 3, because once you go to that, you can run that same oil in your primary, transmission, and engine.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so it makes it a lot more convenient. You just buy one oil. You don't have to be searching.
Great. Part of the reason I like to ask that question is, I did a Hammer 1275 on the Sportster, and Hammer is very adamant about for break-in, use the cheapest conventional oil you can get. They even recommend Walmart brand. Run that for the break-in cycles. It's short. You're probably only putting 10, 15 minutes on that oil.
Yeah.
And then they say, conventional oil, 2050, that's it. Do not run synthetic. Do not get carried away. That motor will be happy with that oil in it. And now we're talking a 1996 Sportster, older technology, all that kind of stuff.
I think the tolerances on bikes have tightened up, especially on Harleys, because the motors back in the 90s, the Evolution motors and stuff, they were pretty loose. And so the synthetic oil had a tendency to, because it's so viscous, to weep through gaskets. And didn't seal it as well as the mineral oil did. So I totally agree with that.
The odd shovel had leaked as it was. Boy, you get real slippery stuff.
Well,
in
that's
there.
how you knew it had oil.
There you go. There you go. That's great.
Well, it's funny, when you talk to oil manufacturers, you're going to get a varied amount of stories, right?
Yeah.
From oil manufacturers. I know I spent a lot of time, especially when I was in the car business, eating pizza courtesy of Mobile One, because they would constantly want to come in and educate us about why switch our customers from the conventional oils to Mobile One synthetics and the long-term effects and how it benefits everything else, not only the dealership but the customer. And is from their perspective, as long as your engine is lubricated, then they would be willing to cover it. So depending on who you talk to, you're going to get all kinds of different various opinions on synthetic versus non-synthetic and whether it's worth the bang for your buck. We do endorse Syn 3 here at Calgary Harley-Davidson.
Cool. Pegs.
These are HDMC pegs. So
I
again,
saw that.
Yeah, and they've got a very military kind of style theme to them altogether.
Yeah.
Definitely.
With the rivets and...
Yeah, function over fashion, I would say, but it just overall suits the aesthetic of the bike. So really, really nice peg set on this bike here.
And in case you didn't pick it up, HDMC is Harley-Davidson Motor Company.
Yes. Yes, the MC stands for Motor Company.
Yes.
Seat?
That's your factory stock seat. Same with your passenger rear pillion before you hit the sissy bar, before you hit my helmet. But yeah, again, the Street Bob, that's actually probably one of the most comfortable seats that Harley-Davidson does make. Yeah. Really suits the overall aesthetic of the bike. And you can definitely play around with it. A lot of people will take these off and go with a Saddleman 2-up seat for their own personal preference, but I do find this extremely comfortable to ride.
I had a Street Bob for a demo bike a few years ago, and I probably put 3,000 kilometers on it. I absolutely loved the bike. It was one of the funnest demos I've had.
Another one of our sales guy, Pierre, that just joined our team not too long ago, he's got a 22 Street Bob. He's been running the same factory seat the whole way through, and him and I swapped bikes one day, and I was shocked how comfortable that seat is. And he's 6'4".
Yeah.
Probably around 2 1/4.
Yeah.
225 pounds, something like that. So he's broken it in nicely, but it is still an amazingly comfortable seat. I was quite blown away with how comfortable that saddle is.
And sissy bar.
Yeah, I'll take my helmet off of there. Again, just kind of finish off the overall look of the bike and give somebody something functional.
Yeah, that's an aftermarket sissy bar. It's not a Harley bar. And I think they wanted it to be tight to the frame and just kind of that old school look to it.
Yeah.
Right. Seems to fit nice.
Yep.
Everything looks fine there. No problem with that.
And strap your luggage to it. Somebody's got something to lean up against while you're out for a ride.
The tent, the sleeping bag, and away you go off to that chopper event.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, show and shine, whatever you're into, right?
There you go. Okay, now you get to start it up. Let's flip this around.
Well, let's start it up on the sexy side here for the camera.
Sure,
I think that's worthwhile.
Absolutely.
Ooh, wrong gear.
That's why you pull in the clutch.
That's great.
That's incredible. I love the sound of a Harley.
Yes. All right, ready to flip it around?
Sure. Let's do that.
Okay. Let Tom
grab your helmet.
We got this thing flipped around, and we're ready to take a look at the B side here. I don't know that we have a whole bunch to cover off, but a little bit.
Yeah.
Kobe, what are you noticing there?
Well, I'm taking a look at that side mount license plate there, which we've actually picked up. Those are actually made by Ill Fated Customs here in town. So,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Well,
Alberta's got some of the largest license plates in the world, so we need something that actually fits them, because anything you buy out of the States is a quarter of the size and almost useless to us.
So two things I got to remember here. I wanted to ask you a question about this, but in terms of plates, I'll ask you. So since we no longer require the year sticker in the corner, I've heard that people are trimming the license plates. Are you guys running into any of that, or?
We've never done that here at Calgary, Harley.
No, I know you have.
Oh, okay.
I'm wondering if customers are doing it.
Technically speaking, they're not supposed to modify a plate in any way.
Right.
You know, once you start cutting a plate, then you start getting yourself in trouble or possible trouble. What I would do is digital photocopy and shrink it.
And then ride with the backpack with your plate inside it.
Yep.
Because I've had to do that in the past, just to make sure that yes, I've got my actual plate here, it hasn't been compromised, and it's good to go. Now, that's one of the reasons why we are using those ill-fated custom ones on there, because number one, they're beautiful in design, they fit perfectly.
And they've got all the legal requirements with lights and everything.
So you actually put the lights in the bolts there to hold your plate on.
And that's exactly what I was going to ask you about. I noticed when you went to move it, when you fired it up, those are really sexy little lights on there for the plate.
And it holds that Alberta plate on there perfectly. So again, we don't need to make any customization or modifications to your legal Alberta plate. You're good to go the way that it is. So it's a great product, and we're always happy to support a local dealer as well.
Excellent. Anything else over there, Tom?
Well, one of the things I noticed on the tank that we haven't talked about is this is a flush mount cap. Very easy install, like 2 minutes in your garage, literally. Cleans up the tank. You don't have the big bulbous thing sticking out here, and it opens that easy.
Okay, so that is...
This is a Harley product.
But it's an add-on.
It's an add-on, yeah.
Okay. Good. Good. I was going to mention, too, looking at this side of the bike, the push rod tubes and the edges of the cooling fins, the silver showing they've been machined, whatever that process is. This look, to me, an old guy, this is Harley-Davidson. That right there with the silver edges on the cooling fins, that's Harley-Davidson. The new engines, like on the Sportster, the liquid cooled stuff, it doesn't look Harley-Davidson anymore.
Yeah. You know, one of the biggest mistakes that I made with my own personal bike is when we did the Stage 2 on my bike is I thought, you know what, I want to black out the motor. So my mids were chrome, and same with my push rod tubes, they were also chrome. And I said, you know what, let's turn them all to black. Now this one's got the black mids, right, like mine does, and that looks fantastic. But when I went to the black push rod tubes, the first time I laid eyes on my bike after we made that change, I thought, oh no, I made a mistake. And I'll tell you, the one thing that I realized with Harley-Davidson is they've probably done that research and development and said, you know what, we want to show those push rod tubes off. We want to create that depth and that contrast in the motor. Yeah. And that's why they are using chrome on this particular one in comparison to something that's been blacked out. But I mean, it's such a beautiful, iconic looking motor for Harley-Davidson. It's going to be really tough for us to, get over whatever's going to come next.
I'm hoping we don't ever get there, actually.
Because it looks amazing.
And this bike, you went for the old school look. It's very cool, it's nostalgic, it's chopperish or bobberish, whichever you want to go with. I don't know if you can do this with the new style engine.
No.
And for me, I've been looking at that thing trying to figure out, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
As a builder, not that I'm a great builder or anything, but as a builder, I look at stuff and that is kind of like some metric or European bikes where I look at the power plant and I think, how do we make that fit into something really cool?
Well, I'm really curious to see how Harley-Davidson is going to evolve, because if we take a look at the brand new 2024 Road Glide next to you or the Street Glide next to me, we can see that we still have our M8 in there, right? They've made some changes, and now as liquid-cooled heads, but you can still see those traditional push rod tubes. You can still see the traditional cut to the side of the motor there. I mean, nothing has really changed, and this is their brand new variation of the 117, right? A brand new variation of the 100 or the 121. Still looks the same as that. So I think Harley-Davidson is also looking at maintaining certain things that the consumers still want. Right?
I think it's really tough for Harley-Davidson as a manufacturer, because I find a lot of metric bikes or the Italians and stuff, they just reinvent it every 4 or 5 years, and that's fine, but I think it's a lot more difficult for Harley-Davidson to not reinvent it, but still keep it pushing forward, keep the traditional lines, keep the push rods, and still meet, EPA laws, still meet...
Well, and there's the big thing, to meet the requirements that keep that partial air cooling, if you will. Air cooling worked great. Flew airplanes with air cooling. It worked for a long, long time. Does it work with fuel injection and EPA standards and all that kind of stuff? Maybe not. It's cool that all Harleys had to do is liquid cool the heads.
Yeah.
But how much longer can you do that?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think at some point Harley might not have a choice, and that they will have to go to something. I think they're digging their feet in, and they're going to stick with this air-cooled styled motor as long as they can take it. Because this is what people think of when they think of Harley. It's got that distinctive sound. It's got that distinctive look. It's, something that's so iconic, and Harley's carried it through for 120 years now.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see how they do evolve into the next stage, because I think, especially with the evolution now with the Road Glide and the Street Glide, we're going to start to see that transcend through other parts of our lineup. And as they add, eliminate, or bring back a bike like the Breakout or something like that, it's going to be really interesting to see what the future of the Softails for us looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's and I think it's unique to Harley-Davidson. It's an interesting situation they have where there's so much heritage, and you have so many long-term customers in terms of decades with Harley-Davidson. And you have guys like me who absolutely love my 96 Sportster, or they love their shovel head or their pan head. And Harley-Davidson is trying to say, we don't want to service things that are more than 10 years old. They're trying to focus and keep the technicians up to speed. And I get all the requirements there, but you have all these loyal Harley-Davidson passionate customers, and you can't write them off. So, it's a good thing the aftermarket is super strong, because I think Harley can kind of let the aftermarket take anything more than 10 years old and keep working with it.
I think, you brought up a valid point there. It's, Harley-Davidson's got to push forward with their stuff. They got to keep their techs on point with the new technology, because these bikes are getting more and more and more technical on them. You can still get some parts for an older Harley-Davidson, even back to shovelhead era. But I think at some point Harley does have to draw that line in the sand and say, we can't service this. Yeah. The other aspect that we see all the time in the service department is that the expectations from the customer. These aren't, your 1996 bike there. That thing's 30 years old. And a lot of customers have this expectation that it's going to work the same as this. So when I bring it in, you guys are going to fix everything. I can ride away on it. But it brings up a lot of other problems. And then we're phoning you up and saying, well, this is going to happen and this is going to happen. Well, why didn't you guys fix it? Or what do you mean I got to pay for that? It's in your possession, and it's tough sometimes.
It's also a supply and demand too.
Yeah.
I worked in the car industry for 19 years, and I understand that, as parts age and as they, you have less demand, what are you going to do with all your supply? You're going to sell all your supply, and you're not going to replenish your supply. So again, we're going through that stage. And the beautiful thing about Harley-Davidson is there's enthusiasts around the world that are going to find ways to preserve the product. they're going to preserve the brand, they're going to preserve the legacy that's behind them, and they've got all their own motivating factors as to why they want to purchase the product or that vintage or that nostalgia. We see it here all the time, especially with our pre-owned selection of motorcycles. But you know what? At some point in time, we're going to run out of a brand new gasket, that you're going to be able to come in through our doors here, and you're going to have to find it through another channel, through aftermarket, however you have to do it. It's just the reality of the business.
And it seems to me that Harley-Davidson is not trying to get in the way of the aftermarket continuing to take care of those older machines. They seem to be pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I think they even recognize that, being in business for as long as they have, that they're not doing justice to the service that they can't offer. Right. So let's open it up. Let's give other people an opportunity to run with it. And they're doing me a favor from Harley-Davidson. They're doing Harley-Davidson a favor by taking care of those customers.
Yeah. And it's what our consumers want too. The new Road Glide, the new Street Glide. And I mean, that technology it's changing, but it's also what our customers are telling us that they want. How many people come in here and they want a stereo in their bike, right? You got a bike like this, no stereo. You get a bike like that, you want a stereo. You want that navigation in there. You want the Bluetooth. You want to take your iPhone and hook it up to Apple CarPlay. They want those creature comforts. So as we continue to evolve into what they expect from our motorcycles is what we're going to deliver. And Harley's even looking at, I remember I had the opportunity to meet Brad Richards, and on the new Street Glide, there's a pocket where your phone can go into. And I said to him, why didn't you make this Qi wireless charging? He says, Kobi, we actually tried to do that, but the phone wouldn't sit in there good enough. It still vibrated around in the traditional Harley sense, and on all the bumps and shelves on the road, that it couldn't continuously make contact with it. So we just put in, that old school traditional plug so that you had that connectivity so you could charge your phone while you go down the road. But appreciate the fact that you challenged us and asked me why I wasn't there. So,
no, very cool. All right, and this machine is for sale at Calgary Harley-Davidson.
Yeah, we're not allowed to fall in love with any of the bikes here. They're all for sale because as good as they look in our dealership, Bruce, they look better in your driveway.
Hey, while we're here, I took a walk upstairs to take some photos for filler material here. And I noticed, have you extended the used bike area down there, or what? There seems to be motorcycles down that far
We've
side.
kind of outgrown this building, so we're doing what we can to make it work for now until we start looking at building a new building. So one of the things we did was we expanded the mezzanine level, but it's blocked off because those are for service bikes.
Okay.
So rather than leave them on the floor, rather than push them in and out every single day, they can hide them upstairs, and that way when the parts come in.
Is that the elevator right there? Is that
the elevator serves both sides, yeah.
Perfect.
So, and we try to make sure that the used bikes are on this side, and then the service bikes are on that side, right? So there's a little bit of differentiation, but
and
again,
your used inventory looks healthy?
Very healthy. Yeah, we probably have the healthiest inventory under one roof in Canada.
Yeah, so I think we can safely boast we have the most amount of Harleys under one roof in the country at this point in time. Yeah. So lots of great selection. All the bikes have gone through the shop. We've done 150 multi-point inspections on every single one of them. So we're definitely in the used game, and
good.
Oh yeah, and we get travelers and people from around the country coming.
We ship bikes right across Canada.
Yeah.
Every used bike is a unicorn. No two used bikes are the same, and so we get demand right across Canada.
But we do have the phone number for the used bike factory, so if you're looking for something in particular with a little bit of rust on the back and maybe a dent on the front fender, you just tell me what color, how many kilometers, we'll hook you up.
Okay, good. We didn't do on the last episode, and I would fit in a little, an outro at the end to take care of it. But this time, now that I'm thinking about it, Speed and Color is on Instagram. You can follow us, like the posts, stay up to date. Also YouTube, of course, Speed and Color. A-N-D, and Color is K-O-L-O-R. You can get Speed and Color on all the podcast platforms. We're on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, and there's a whole bunch of others. So you can find us there. You should tell people where they can find Calgary Harley-Davidson on social media and stuff, and you could even throw out the phone number for you and and Tom,
Yeah.
in case somebody would like to talk to you about this.
Well, Tom's phone number is really easy. 403 Tom Wild. No, I'm kidding.
No, it's not.
All right, so phone number here.
Wouldn't that be great?
That would be good.
Yeah.
Why didn't you think of that? I'm 604-315 Kobe.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, and that's a real thing. But regardless, that's my personal cell phone number. Please don't call me after midnight, of course. But dealership phone number 403-250-3141. We're conveniently located in the northeast corner of Calgary at 2475 Pegasus Road, northeast. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on LinkedIn. LinkedIn. We're on there. We do have a YouTube channel. You pretty much find us everywhere.
Is it all under Calgary Harley-Davidson, or is it CHD, or is it
Well, we also have a
Calgary
CHD
Harley?
Customs page as well. Calgary Harley on Instagram. Calgary Harley-Davidson on Facebook. So
Okay.
we're looking to go.
So you have to do a little bit of searching because there's a couple different options.
Yeah, and then also there's our website. We have a virtual tour on our website. We've got all of our bikes on there. We got 20 plus photos of every single bike here in the dealership.
And they're
so-
photos of the actual bike, not. We
Yeah,
try and get them
okay.
up there as quickly as possible.
Good,
So
good. All right.
you can find us everywhere.
Well, that's great. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you very much.
We should do this again.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
anytime.
Tom,
Thanks, Bruce.
thanks.
Yeah.
We'll see you later. Good.
Awesome.
Done. Now you can go home.
We'll tie you up.
You can go watch the Leafs win in overtime.
How about them Oilers, huh? Oilers!
Oh, Tom, you're killing me, man.
Yeah.
You're killing me.
Tom, you can go home now.